Curt Mills. I want to give time because I've never said Mark should not have a platform. Mark shouldn't have a platform. Mark shouldn't. I think it's great. Mark makes, in his minds, very cogent arguments. I think they're pure madness, and that's why I want more people to listen to him. He did an 18-minute, I think, open on Fox last night where he systematic, because he's a constant, he's a lawyer. He walked through his case, beat by beat of why we should go kinetic now, and not just why we should do it, that we have to do it. This is a perfect time. We'll never see this time again. And we have to go kinetic. We have to use American military force to decapitate the regime, the Iranian regime. And then we have to, I guess, back whatever group comes together to try to put it back together again. My argument is that use economic sanctions. I think we ought to block the oil. But the Iranian people put these guys in charge. And I understand there's a lot of bloodshed in the streets. But, hey, guess what? You're trying to overthrow a government that you put in. And you were looking for an Islamic Republic. When you look at Islamic republics, they're kind of totalitarian. So you got what you paid for, and now you deal with it. Mark Levin takes a very different path, and you actually retweeted where I try to be magnanimous and say, Mark, you should watch it because he makes the best case why we shouldn't go kinetic. You actually say, I think you called it, moronic? What did you say? You were very snippy, Curt Mills. For such a nice guy, you took a real edge here. What'd you say?
Said it was a sermon of a lunatic.
Sermon of a lunatic. Why did you say that, sir?
Well, obviously, he does his opening monologue, and he's relegated to Fox Weekend, so it's the real madhouse stuff that Murdoch won't allow on the weekdays programming. But he does his Edward R. Murrow bit, but it's basically Edward R. Murrow if he was a bald schizophrenic Zionist. It's really next level stuff. And this weekend, I would say, was the coup de grace. He said that Iran has become the North Korea of the Middle East. Now, putting aside that Iran is, yes, an autocracy, yes, a tough place to live if you're an enemy of their regime. It's hardly North Korean. They don't have death camps, as Levin alleged. But I think what's actually important here.
But hold on. Hang on. Even if they're North Korean, we're not moving on the North Koreans. President Trump wants meetings with the North Koreans. He wants to talk about it and put pressure on the Chinese, because the North Koreans are a vassal state, just like you put pressure on Turkey and Russia and other people around there to bring them to the table to negotiate. We're not in bombing. I haven't seen us bombing, bombing North Korea, sir. So if they are North Korea, big deal.
Because they have nukes, right? That's what autocracies have learned around the world, that the only guarantor, the only safeguard of their regimes are to get nuclear weapons. I don't think the Iranians are actually there. I think the Iranians have shown that they will do a deal with this president, that they will basically abandon any serious lunge towards nuclear weapons. They have been fighting this zero enrichment thing, but the level of enrichment that you need to get a nuclear weapon is not the level of enrichment that they're agreeing to go below. They're talking about 3% enrichment. That's not 100% enrichment. That's not a nuclear weapon. And I don't think we want to set the precedent that basically the U.S. is just a totally dishonest broker, because then you will see other countries lunge for the bomb. You will see, if the Iranians, if their regime can survive, they will lunge for a crude weapon. And so ironically, the number one thing that makes the world proliferate is the kind of extreme hawk neocon stuff that we've been pursuing, or that Levin would prefer us to pursue. Because if the Iranians go down, the Turks are going to go for the bomb, the Saudis are going to go for a bomb, the Japanese are going to go for a bomb, the Koreans will go for a bomb. And I think if our goal is to have less nuclear weapons in the world, that's a dangerous line. Some argue, like Mearsheimer, that actually might make the world safer. I'm not sure I'm quite there, especially because we have the discrete goal of no nuclear weapon for the Iranians, and I think that can be easily achieved. And as I've indicated elsewhere, this is actually the one thing that will get Donald Trump the Nobel Peace Prize. He thinks it's a deal potentially with Ukraine or on Gaza. Both are too controversial. These are European liberals, right? If he does a deal with the Russians on Ukraine, they'll never forgive him for it. But if he actually flouts the will of Netanyahu, if he flouts the will of people like Mark Levin. If he does a better deal, more impressive deal with the Iranians than Barack Obama did, that is the one thing that actually will get him the Nobel Peace Prize. He's got the wrong nomination list right now. He's got Vladimir Putin and the leadership of
Right.
Pakistan. These are not the
If he
people
can,
you want
okay.
to. Yeah.
If this guy can pull off a Ukraine peace deal with no American security guarantee, a Gaza deal that's rebuilding, they're already putting big money in there with no American security guarantee, and he forces by potential military might, the assets we have in theater, a meaningful deal with the Iranians. Forget the Nobel Peace Prize. He'll go down in history as the greatest man of peace in world history. It just, I mean, he's solved the unsolvable. And so let's give President Trump a chance. Let's give him some runway. Let's go back to Tulsi Gabbard. This is why I said she didn't fall out of favor with the president. She fell out of favor with that kind of Praetorian Guard that sometimes is in the national security aspect during the June and July timeframe, and they try to run her out of there, every other day. The President Trump thinks very highly of her. He has to, because she's overseeing. Cash is doing the criminal part. She's looking at the overall stealing of the 2020 election. And the mainstream media is absolutely incorrect. We have to get to the bottom of that, because if you don't have that, you don't have a country. And Tulsi's doing a job. And you see right now they're trying to get her. Oh my God, she's doing conference calls with Trump, conference calls to the FBI. They are coming at Tulsi Gabbard every way possible. And that's why MAGA has to have her back, Curt Mills.
Look, I mean, people forget in August of 2024, this was Brat Summer. This was the ascendance of Kamala Harris. There was an expectation that the Trump-Vance ticket could lose, and the endorsement of RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard was a crucial lifeline in getting Trump to win. And I think if MAGA is going to be an enduring political movement, if it's going to have an afterlife long after Trump's in office, you need to keep people in the coalition like the Kennedys, like the Gabbards. And Gabbard's a representative of a lot of Americans, independent-minded Americans, ex-Democrats who came to vote for Donald Trump. And not surprisingly, she has foreign policies that were critical of previous Republican administrations, like the Bush administration. There's a lot of people, unfortunately, again, within Trump's cabinet who just want to return, people like Marco Rubio, I would submit, who just want to return to the hits. They just want to return to Pompeoism or Mike Penceism or establishment Republicanism. There's not the demographics for it, first of all, but second of all, it's demonstrably failed. Iraq didn't work. The global financial crisis didn't work. People are justifiably angry about the Bush Republican legacy. And so that Trump and his allies need to cook up something new, and keeping people like Gabbard in the fold, I think, is absolutely crucial.
Afghanistan didn't work, and Osama bin Laden hit the World Trade Center on Bush's watch, and they couldn't get him in before their watch was over. They were too busy in Iraq doing first Fallujah, second Fallujah. That had to fall to Obama. Curt Mills, where do people go and get you? This one's a hot one, particularly the Iran situation. Tulsi Gabbard, they're all over her. Where do people go to get you on social media and all the great content you're putting up?
Yeah, I mean, Bush let UBL go. Look at the Afghan papers that have been declassified. But anyways, it's the American Conservative magazine, founded in 2002 by Patrick J. Buchanan and others, against the Iraq War, conservatives and friends against the Iraq War. It is at www.theamericanconservative.com, and my own work is at Curt Mills, at CurtMills on X. I'm the executive director of our fine little magazine. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.